when you're wondering if this thing that has been such a huge part of your life and kind of formed your life and like at the center of your family, when you start to wonder if that is real and true, like that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And overwhelming, and just kind of like you just feel like your world is rocked and turned upside down. Like you're just kind of like, wait, what if, you know?
Before I get into today's episode, I want to take a second to talk about the mothers in our lives because this time of year just gets me. I don't know if you've heard Elder Holland's talk, Behold Thy Mother, but he said it so beautifully that the Savior's love for his mother was one of the last things he expressed from the cross. And that kind of love doesn't go unnoticed. And I think the moms in our lives need to hear that they are seen, they are sacred, and they are not forgotten by him. And that's the whole heart behind Memoir's Mother's Day collection. Of course, you know, Memoir is faith-inspired jewelry to help the mothers in your life always remember him. So you can actually go to the memoirjewelry.com website and use code Mother's Day for 20% off. And this is early access for the Comeback Podcast listeners. So go to memoirjewelry.com and use code Mother's Day for 20% off. Well, Katie, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. What a cool podcast. Like, thank you for starting this. Like, these episodes I've been listening to, it's just mind-blowing how God can be aware individually of every single person.
Yeah,
like these stories that people tell, and I'm just like, there's no way that's a coincidence. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And that I love it.
It's so amazing. Yeah, every episode it's like God's hand is so evident in people's lives, and it's always just so beautiful to see how the episodes play out. So
it is in big ways and small ways too, because I definitely feel like mine is small, but it's just like those are still, the small ways are still the big ways. I don't know.
They are. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I love your tiny dove necklace.
It's so cute. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
I mean, it was hard to pick just one. I actually went and bought more. But I picked this one just because, I mean, I love the spirit. And also my husband calls me his dove.
That's so sweet. It looks so cute on you. I love it so much.
Thank you. That was so kind of you to send it to me. I appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Well, okay, I would love to hear a little bit of background about you. Like, tell us like where you live, like if you, maybe what you do for work, your interests, just give us some context of who you are. And then let's jump into your story.
Okay, sounds good. So I grew up in Utah. I grew up in Brigham City. I'm the youngest of three, have an amazing older sister, amazing older brother. My parents, gosh, some of the best people on earth, I'm pretty sure. I went to Utah State, Aggies, loved it up there. I studied graphic design. So I've spent pretty much the last 12 years working as a graphic designer. And then recently, I went back to school to pursue my childhood dream of learning to write and illustrate children's books. So that's what I'm doing right now.
That's so cool.
It's so fun. It's so fun. It's harder than I thought, but it's so much fun. So that's kind of where I'm at. Right now, we live on the Oregon coast. It's beautiful up here. So he actually got into dental school the day before we got married. So about a month after we got married, we were living in Utah. We moved to Virginia for dental school for 4 years. And then we moved to Wichita, Kansas for a year for a residency. And then we moved up here for work. As far as my story goes, like I said, I grew up in Utah, grew up in the church. My parents definitely taught us the gospel. They really are amazing. Taught us how to be good people, everything we needed to know. And I guess maybe I should mention, I'm going to talk about like depression and anxiety in my story. I don't think there's anything triggering or anything, but just so people know. Because I remember as a little girl just always feeling sad. And I didn't know why, because I had this great life. I didn't know why I was so sad. I remember in sixth grade, like it's a clear memory in my head. In sixth grade, I was sitting in my very first health class, and my teacher was describing depression. She had the slide up on the board, and I was like, wait a second. That's how I feel every day. Like, do I have this? And I thought, no, 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 I just need to be happy, because I, bless my little 12-year-old brain, I thought, at church we talk about, if you've got the gospel in your life, you're going to be so happy. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to be happy. I have the gospel. Like, I just need to be happy. And so I didn't tell anybody. And I just kind of tried to be like, okay, I don't have that. I don't have that. I just need to be happy. I have the gospel. But that really affected my sense of self-worth. I don't know why. I don't know if I assume it was the depression. I don't know, but I never believed that God loved me. I just was like, why would he? Like I just was like this little, like there's nothing about me to love, basically. So I kind of had that always in my mind and in my heart growing up. And I think it also made me really over anxious about what other people thought of me and being accepted, because I just was searching for worth somewhere, right? Okay, so I was like, okay, if other people like me, then I'm worth something. So getting into my teenage years, I noticed, I was like, oh, it seems like the cool people are the ones who don't really care about church. And I just wanted to be accepted. At the time, my dad was the stake president. And Brigham City's not super tiny, but it's not huge. So a lot of the kids in my school were in our stake. And so I'd get the whole, oh, she's the stake president's daughter. She's so perfect. She, like, don't say anything around her because she's perfect. And I hated that. Like, I hated that because I was like, no, I'm not perfect, and I'm not judging you. And so I just was so in the back of my mind, I was like, I can't be churchy. I don't want to be churchy. And I mean, I did the churchy things. I was on the seminary council my senior year, and I was, active in my ward, but I was trying at the same time, trying not to be too churchy and never really, I guess, doing the things that you need to really build your own testimony. Cause I kind of just was like, okay, I'll do these things because my parents expect it and because that's what you do, but it wasn't really in my heart. And so through college, I feel like I kind of went like on a roller coaster, just this kind of constant roller coaster of at times just very like half-hearted checking the boxes with church. And then other times I was like fully devoted. So it was just always in a different point on this roller coaster. But again, this whole time, just God doesn't love me. Why would he love me? In the back of my mind, I had no problem believing that he loved everyone else. But for some reason, I was just like, but not me. Like, why?
That makes me like so sad.
Me too. It's sad to think about, but I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Like, I guess because we know our own weaknesses and things like that. And so we just go, why would this perfect being, like, why would he love me? And it just, yeah, it is sad. Makes me very sad now, but that was just very present always in my head, was just, I'm not worth anything. God doesn't love me. And there are so many worse things in life. But when I was 18 going to college, to me, in my mind, there were three things that I was like, these are the worst possible things that could ever happen to me. And one of them was, I was like, I cannot graduate college single. The second thing was I can't live in Salt Lake. I'd grown up in Brigham City, lived in Logan, And Salt Lake was like the big scary city. And I was like, please don't ever let me live there. And then the third thing was, I was like, I cannot get married past the age of 30. Like, that is just no way. That's like, it's so embarrassing. Like, I'm so embarrassed that those seemed like the worst things in the world. And I don't like to say those things, but they're kind of important to the stories. You know, when I was younger, I'd watch the girls that were older than me. They'd go off to college, they'd bring boyfriends back to church, and then they'd get married. Like, all it seemed like always by the time they were 21. So I'm like, okay, if I can just be like that, then I will have worth, basically. So again, like, it makes me sad that my worth was based on those things. And I do think that happens a lot, though. Just feeling like you have to fit this certain box or this certain mold in order to have any worth. And again, that just makes me so sad because it's not true. And so honestly, I would pray a lot, saying, please don't give me these things in my life. And I think we all know what happens when we pray and ask for certain things like that. Of course, I graduated college single, and the first job I got was at the church office building in Salt Lake City. So right away, bam, bam, two of these things that I was like, oh, please. So unfortunately, that made me go, okay, see, God doesn't love me. Like, that's what I've been thinking this whole time. God doesn't love me. I've asked him to please not give me these things. And now two of the three right in a row. It's really hard to graduate college and then just be an adult and get a job and be an adult. Like, it's hard already. So I moved to Salt Lake, and I'd been up in Logan for about 7 years. I got 2 degrees while I was up there. Like, that was my home. I had friends. I was so comfortable there. And then going to, this big city where I didn't really know people, it was really hard. It was really kind of a really dark time in my life, to be honest. And while I was there, not long after I moved there, I received my endowment in the Salt Lake Temple. And I remember when I was in the session, the only way I can describe it is I just felt like my soul was just like expanding. Like, expanding with joy. Like, I felt like I was gonna burst or like float up to the ceiling or something. Like, it was such a cool feeling. And there were also multiple times during the session where I was like, this is so familiar to me. Like, I've seen this before. Like, it felt familiar, and just like, it was such a cool experience. And I think, I don't know, I think that really helped me going forward when I didn't even know it. Kind of after that, I did start to focus on, okay, like, I've got these 2 things I didn't want. I got to get married before I'm 30. And so I got into that mindset of, okay, if I do all the right things, God has to give me what I want. So I kind of started going overdrive at this point on church things. Like, I was fasting every single Sunday. I was going to the temple once a week. I was spending hours reading church books and scriptures and things like that, which those are not bad things, but it's just my motivation wasn't in the right place, because it was like, I'm doing this, so give me what I want. I think it is easy to get caught up in that, and to just, you want it so bad, you've got these righteous desires. It's hard to trust in God's timing.
Yeah,
And
it is.
It is, especially again when you think you got to fit this certain mold, this certain timeline. When things don't go that way, it's like, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And I've had several friends that have left the church have talked about, well, I was doing all the right stuff and my life was still hard, so what's the point, kind of thing. And that is very hard. Like, that really is very hard when you do feel like God's not there. The YSA ward I was in at the time was really a great ward. Lots of good people. I got called to be the Relief Society president. And I discovered that there were a lot of girls in our ward with really big needs and difficult issues that I had never seen or had to deal with before. And I was like, okay, I've got to help them all. I've got to save them all. Like, I just kind of took this upon me of like, I've got to do everything. And I remember one evening after a really difficult phone call with one of these girls that had pretty big issues, I called my bishop and I had my first like really big anxiety attack over the phone with him. Bless his heart. I was like, Bishop, like crying, and he was so nice, and he asked his wife and his counselor's wives to kind of help take some of these things off my plate. And then I was released not too long after that. And I remember my first thought after I got released was like, I don't want to go to church anymore. Like, this is too much. Like, I can't do it. I just had burned myself out completely, and just this anxiety. And around that same time, I feel like it's when some things about church history started coming out that we'd never really talked about before, and some policy changes and things like that didn't sit right with me. And I was kind of like, wait a second, what is this? Like, what is all of this? And that kind of fed into that burnout, kind of that doubt and anxiety I'd already been having. And I kept going to church, but I was starting to have just kind of negative feelings about church. And also around this time, I was spending time with a boy I really liked, and I just was like, oh, he's got to be the one, right? Like, I'm not 30 yet. He's got to be the one. I was so anxious about that, and when he ended things, I was just devastated, and I was kind of like, all right, that's it. I can't do this anymore. And that just kind of pushed my depression down to kind of almost rock bottom. Like, I was just in a really, really bad place. I started to go to therapy, which was amazing. And I will tell everyone in the world, please go to therapy at least once in your life. I think it saved me, honestly. So that did kind of start helping with my depression, but I was still really sad, and I did have these doubts and this confusion about the church, and it was just kind of getting stronger and stronger. And so at this point, I was 28, and back then, the YSA program, you were supposed to move on when you were 30, I think. And so again, I was 28. I was kind of starting to get comments of being the granny in the ward.
Oh, geez.
I'll never forget this particular Sunday. I was driving to the University of Utah Institute, which is where my ward met. And I remember I got to the stoplight where I was supposed to turn left, and I just was like, I can't do it today. I just need a break today. And I drove straight through the light and looped back home. And I think in my mind, it was just going to be a 1-week break, but I just stopped going. Just totally stopped going. And at first, I really enjoyed having that extra day over the weekend, like not having anything to do, just having Saturday and Sunday to just relax, be off work. Like, I really enjoyed that at first. And I didn't really tell anybody in my family that I wasn't going to church. I was like, I just didn't want them to know.
Were you still working at the church office building at this time?
Yes, I was. And I mean, that's a whole other story, but that honestly played a part in my struggles with my testimony.
That's actually not the first time that I've heard that from people that have worked at the church.
Yeah. And it's honestly, the job was awesome. And I had some teammates that were amazing. Like, I was actually the only girl on a team of all men, designers. And like, one of my coworkers, he's still kind of like a mentor to me. Like, I still talk to him. Like, he treated me completely as an equal. He was amazing. And like, actually, one of my coworkers that I became good friends with introduced me to my husband later. So like a lot of good came out of it, but it's just, I think you just expect that because it's the church, everything will be perfect. But it's people and it's a workplace. And so I think you just kind of have to have that expectation, I guess. And I, of course, I went into it with the wrong expectation. And
I would imagine going to work for the church, it's like, well, I want to have everything be soft and fluffy for me,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, well, and honestly, I think that's the expectation people have just for the church in general.
Oh,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure. Yeah.
Yes, they're like, oh, Joseph Smith wasn't perfect. No way could he be a prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, brother so and so did this. Like, and, to be fair, there are some awful things in church history, and
Mm-hmm.
there are people in the church who do awful things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absolutely no excuses for that. You know what I mean? But it's people, like
Yeah.
no human on earth is ever going to be perfect. That was
Right.
Jesus. And
Yep.
if you expect multiple Jesuses, then it's never going to happen.
Yep. Yep.
And it can't happen. Like there can't be any other perfect people besides Jesus. It's a tricky one. People are hard. I think people are just hard no matter what organization you're in. Always people are hard. We just do the best we can, right?
Yep. And we're all learning and growing. And I think it
We are.
can be hard to like have grace for people that you think should know better. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, it's like people are just people and they're all just learning and growing just like we are. I do
We
dumb
are.
things all the time. And,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, so
We'll do. We all do. So we have to have that grace for other people. You just
yeah.
do. That's part of
Yep.
life. Part of
Yes.
life. And honestly, maybe this is a tangent, I don't know, but I remember reading the Saints book. At least I've read the first one. I need to read the rest of them, but I would absolutely recommend to anybody to at least read the first one. Because I feel like we hear, all these things about Joseph Smith, all these stories of church history, but they're always kind of, it's like you hear the story just by itself. You don't hear what was happening before or after. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I read the Saints book, even though and I love that they don't sugarcoat stuff. They just say
Yeah.
this happened. And that honestly, that strengthened my testimony in Joseph Smith and in others because I was like, okay, now that I can put this thing that he did into the timeline, into context,
Right.
I would have done the same thing or something
Yeah.
similar. He was just doing the best he could. Like I can't imagine all the pressure of seeing God and God saying, okay, start my church. Like
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine that pressure and of course God says like he's not going to command us in all things.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't tell Joseph, okay, Joseph, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like Joseph Smith had to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a person.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
he did the best he could. And so I would absolutely everybody read at least the first Saints book. Because that really just honestly seeing his imperfections strengthened my testimony in him as a
Yeah.
prophet. Because again, he was doing the best he could. Yes, he made mistakes. He was doing the best he could, and I think one would have done the same thing or close to the same thing. Anyway, I love it.
If I've learned anything from the Comeback podcast, it's that God does use imperfect people and people are learning and growing through their mistakes, and because of their mistakes they are made who they are, and everybody can grow and progress. And so yeah.
I love that. We all have a chance, multiple chances. God gives us infinite chances.
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I love that.
So, okay, you're starting to not go to church. You aren't really telling your family. You're still working at the church office building. So what happened after that?
Yes. So I my friends noticed I wasn't coming to church because they were in my ward. So they would text me. And of course, I just kind of closed in on myself. I was like, you just want me to come back to this. I never said that to them, but that was my attitude. So I just kind of brushed people off. I know that the parents have I feel like they have an extra sense. Like they can just sense things with their kids. And so I didn't tell my family, but my parents figured it out. Like they figured out that I wasn't going to church. And bless their heart. They really, they are the best. And I feel very blessed that this was my experience, that they never tried to push me back to church. They never got mad at me. They never, they just showed me love. And, they would say every once in a while, they'd be like, you should go back to church. And of course I'd roll my eyes, things like that. But they never showed me anything but love. And I recognize that is a huge blessing, because I know that's not everyone's experience. I'm so grateful for them. They are just the best. When I think about my time away from the church, it's almost like just this dark fog was over my life. Like I don't have a whole lot of clear memories from that time. I just remember this deep sadness and this just like profound confusion. For anybody who leaves the church or stops going to church, I think it just, like, when you're wondering if this thing that has been such a huge part of your life and kind of formed your life and like at the center of your family, when you start to wonder if that is real and true, like that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And overwhelming, and just kind of like you just feel like your world is rocked and turned upside down. Like you're just kind of like, wait, what if, And I definitely had quite a few days at this time. I remember these moments where I would wake up in the morning, or I would just be during the day, and I would just be like, I don't want to be alive anymore. And I never wanted to take my life, which I'm grateful I never got to that point. And I just, like, my heart goes out to people who get to that point, because that is so, oh gosh, I can't, like, just tragic and so hard. But I just remember, like, I was like, I just don't want to be alive anymore. Like, I was just in this space of just darkness, sadness, confusion, just not really knowing where I fit, just not really knowing, just feeling sure of anything, really. And it was scary and it was hard. And it's like, life is hard. Like, that's, the older I get, the more places we live, I just realize, like, life is so hard. And gosh, we can never judge anybody. Like, you never know what someone has been through to get to where they are. And there are just so many hard things that people can go through. I just remember this very deep, profound sadness and confusion. And I was still going to therapy throughout all this time, but I never fully talked about these feelings with my therapist. I wish I would have. I think I just was so confused by them, and I didn't know how to put them in words. And also, I'm sure there's a part of me that didn't want to seem so weak, I guess, which, gosh, I think the time we connect most with other people are when we share those really difficult things. So I think it's good to share those things now. I never stopped wearing my garment during this time, which I think probably helped me. I never got into any anti-church things or anything like that, just because I knew for sure that would just make it worse. And I didn't want this weight to get any heavier. And I also know, I feel like I've heard people say this on other episodes of your podcast, like, you are going to find what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to find reasons the church isn't true, you'll find them. If you want to find reasons it is true, you'll find them. Like, you are going to find what you're looking for. When you've kind of made up your mind about something, you're going to search for things that validate that. And at the time, I didn't know what I thought. And so I just was like, I can't touch that because I'm not sure where I'm at. I knew that would just make it worse. And I almost tried alcohol a couple of times. Mostly just to impress people that I was spending time with at that time. I am really grateful that I didn't, because I feel like I get hooked on things easily. And so that could have been very dangerous. I think I look back now and I'm like, okay, I definitely think Heavenly Father was looking over me and helping me, even though I was not really giving him anything at the time, not really trying. I just felt very isolated, very lonely. I didn't talk to anybody about these things, and I wasn't really praying at the time, so I didn't talk to God about it either. I wasn't reading the scriptures. Just kind of had put everything on hold, and just felt like this big crushing weight on my heart and my soul, just like confusion, sadness, just not really knowing who I was or what I was supposed to do or what I was supposed to be. So then I was about 29 at this point, and my birthday is at the very end of December. And so I made a 30 before 30 list for that year. And I was like, 30 things I want to do before I turn 30. 100% would recommend this to anybody. Like, it ended up being one of the best years of my life because of all the things that all the goals that I did and all the things that got me out of my comfort zone, all of those things. And one of the things on that list was I wanted to do a triathlon. But in order to do that, I had to learn how to swim. So that was also on my list, was to take swimming lessons. I did do a triathlon. It was like a super mini one. So it was nothing impressive. But so I signed up for these swimming lessons, and they were at somebody's tiny backyard pool being taught by high school students. So I showed up to my swimming lessons, and the students before and after me were like 5 years old. So when I get there, the girls, high school girls, they're like, okay, where's your child? So we can teach you how to. I'm like, actually, it's me. I'm your student. So it was so funny.
So awesome.
But the pool was so small that, like, by the time I actually was starting to swim, it probably took me like 5 strokes to get to the other side of the pool. So it was kind of funny. But I would drive home from these swimming lessons. It was like a 25-minute drive back to my apartment, and I felt like I just conquered the world after each one of these swimming lessons. It was great, but I would be on this high driving home from this swimming lesson, just feeling so empowered. Like, on one of these drives home from my swimming lessons, I was feeling good. And then I started thinking about the church. I think the high was still there a little bit, which was good, but I was just kind of like, oh yeah, like, what am I going to do about this? And I, again, just started going over all the things in my head, like, oh, I don't like this about the church. I don't like this about church history. I don't like this. I don't like this. Really hate this, kind of going all those things. And then I thought, well, but is there anything I like about the church? And so I thought, well, it's pretty cool that you can be with your family for eternity. That's pretty cool. I guess it's pretty cool that, like, to believe that God, the most supreme being in the universe, like, knows us individually. Like, that's pretty cool, I guess. But I mean, again, I still didn't believe he loved me, but I still was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then I thought about Jesus. And my favorite, my favorite scriptures in the Book of Mormon are in Alma 36, when Alma's talking to his son, and he talks about, like, I was in this horrible, like, the gall of bitterness or whatever he talks about, and his soul being harrowed up, just like torn up. And then he thinks of Jesus. And I love in those scriptures, those are my favorite scriptures. He talks about like immediately just having this joy. And he talks, I love that he uses the word, I wish I could remember exactly. I should have pulled it up, but he talks about like his pain being exquisite and bitter, but then he talks about his joy being exquisite and sweet. Maybe I don't remember the exact word, but I just thought it was so interesting. He used the word exquisite for both the pain and the joy. And I thought about Jesus, and I will tell you my favorite belief that we have in our church is that Jesus didn't just suffer for our sins, but that he suffered for any pain we had, any difficulty, any sadness, any loneliness, anything we feel, he felt. And I just thought about that, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like just that belief that like you are never alone. You're never totally alone. Even when you are just in this, your soul's harrowed up, like you're in this bitter, hard, lonely place, you are not alone. And oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love that so much, that the atonement, it is for our sins, but it's also for, like we said, like life is so hard. And that's what the atonement is for as well. And so I thought about that, and I was like, okay, I love that. Like, I don't just like that, I love that. And this is the only time in my life I've ever heard a voice in my head. And I can tell you, like, it was not my voice. This was not my thought. But I heard in my head, what do you want to believe? And I was like, whoa. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason up to that moment, I never realized that belief was a choice. I don't know why. And it just had never occurred to me that belief was a choice. And so that just like that phrase, what do you want to believe? Like that just like blew my mind.
That's so powerful.
Yes, it was so cool. And like I said, I promise you, it was not my voice. It was not my thought. Absolutely. That was not me. I know for a fact that was not me. But I needed that. That was kind of like a wake up call of like God saying to me, like, you choose. And I was like, you know what? I want to believe the good stuff. Like, I want to believe those core, like that's the thing too, is that core doctrine that never changes. Those core things that like, those are always true. And I think if you can base your testimony on those things, then, whatever people do or whatever happens, like, there'll be things that you'll be like, I don't like that. I'm not sure about that. But if you can base your testimony on those core doctrines and not on people or institutions or things like that, then I think that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. And that's what is so true and so good. And so I was like, okay, I want to believe this. I want to believe these good things. And so again, this was in May. It still took me 3 more months to get up the guts to go back to church. And it was scary. Like, it was hard. I don't know if people realize how hard it is to come back to church. I think there's the fear of judgment. There's the fear of rejection. And to be honest, there is the fear too of like, okay, I want to believe this, but what if I go to church and realize it's not true, Like there's so many fears behind going back to church. And it's really scary. It's really hard. But this time I was like, okay, I'm trying this for real this time. I'm going to figure out if I believe it, not just check the boxes. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to see. And so I started reading the Book of Mormon again, but this time I was like really reading it. I was like, okay, what is this? It wasn't just, oh, skim the page, check off the chapter. I was really reading it. It felt like it was new because, you know, I'd read it multiple times before, but after this period of not reading it, not going to church and things like that, it did feel new and familiar at the same time, which was kind of cool. And I started praying again and just really like trying to dig in and figure things out. And so again, no coincidences, you know, there's no coincidences with God. So one week after I went back to church, my second Sunday at church, a new girl moved into my ward. Her name's Anna. And I don't know if she has any idea how much she helped me in coming back to church. She was a nurse, and sometimes she would work the night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and our ward was at 9 a.m. And she would stay up and come to church and go home and go to after. I know. She is amazing. And she's still one of my best friends. And I always knew she would be at church. And so, like, once you start going back, it's not just suddenly easy, I want to be there every week and things like that. And so I would regularly have some days where I was like, I don't know if I can do it today. I don't know if I want to go today. But just knowing that Anna would be there and that I could sit by her, I would go. And gosh, I'm so grateful for her. Like I said, I don't know if she knows how much she helped me. She never judged me when I would have questions and things. It was never like, why are you asking that, kind of thing. Like she helped me so much. So I would just say, everybody listening, like if you see somebody come back or come to church for the first time, just please go grab them and sit by them and help them feel welcome, because I feel like when you are first developing your testimony, a lot of it kind of does depend on people. And feeling welcome at church, feeling like you have someone to sit by, feeling like you have a safe place at church. So just be somebody's safe place is what I would say is like those first critical times, even months when you're first coming back to church or coming to church, you need at least one safe person, a safe place at church. So go sit by somebody.
Love that.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference. So as I was coming back, as I was reading the scriptures, as I was praying, I just slowly came to realize, like, I believe these things. And I believe them. And I want to believe them, and I want to keep believing them. There's just so much joy in the gospel, really. Like, when you look at the plan of salvation and when you look at the atonement and all of these things, like I think they probably said in conference, like, it's a gospel of love. Like everything we have is because God loves us. Like everything in the gospel is because God loves us, which again is mind-boggling. That this being, and he wants us to come back to him and be like him. He's not like, oh, I'm always going to be above you. He's like, I want you to come and be like me. Like how much more loving can you get than that? Mm-hmm. And I started feeling peace, and I just felt so much happier. Like I think I definitely hold that time sacred in my life, that time that I was away from the church, because it helped me really get to where I am now. And me personally, I needed that contrast, to see like that sadness versus just the happiness and joy that I have in my life now. And of course, things aren't perfect.
Right.
There's still times where I'm like, that bothers me, or, things like that. Questions. And I think there was just one of your most recent guests, he kind of said, like, we shouldn't sweep these things under the rug.
Right.
And I agree with that. Like, I agree with that. I think we should have these questions and discussions and things like that. Because that's how you figure out what you believe and how
And
you
I feel like the hard things, it's like, I think that's part of the plan. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
having these different things, like just even with the working at the church thing and seeing all the people for their imperfections and like having the policy things that we might not agree with, like, I think that might be like part of the plan. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be able to choose to have your testimony rooted in the Savior and those things that I just read this thing. I think it was Hank Smith yesterday. He said, have you ever had a question you desperately needed answered and heaven felt silent? You're not alone. And I'd suggest that silence isn't indifference. It might actually be an invitation. Think of the Lord as the greatest coach you've ever had, not the kind who hands you the playbook and sends you out, the kind who lets you struggle, grapple, and wrestle because he knows that's exactly how you grow. He's not just interested in answering this question. He's interested in building the kind of person who can receive answers to every question you'll ever face. He's more interested in your growth than your comfort. So if this feels hard, good, you're on the right track.
Awesome. I love that. What a good comparison too, because it is like he's saying in sports, if you want to get better, you have to push harder. You have to do these hard things. Like, what a good comparison. Like,
Yeah.
of course, this would be the same. Like,
Right.
if you want to get anywhere, you got to push and go through hard things. And
It's like my husband, he just is a gardener to his core. He loves to garden. And he always uses the analogy of you have to prune the tree in order for it to grow. Like that
Yeah.
is God's law.
Yes. Yes. I honestly, I had never seen that in person, but we have this bush in the front of our house and it was like pretty much dead. And I was like, should we just take it out? And my husband was like, well, I'll just like trim it down and see. It is flourishing now. Like it was dry sticks and now it's this beautiful green bush. Like it's true. Like all of that is so true. I love it. Yes, yes. I love it so much.
We only have a couple minutes left. We have 3 minutes left, and I need to hear how you got married, how old you were, and I need you to tie the loose ends for us here with the marriage.
In November of that same year, the year I turned 30, I had the flu 1 week, and Anna was gone visiting her family. So my church was at 9 a.m. and I was still getting better. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep in and I'm going to go to church at 1 with my friend Jason, my coworker from the church. So I went to church with Jason and he introduced me to his friend McKay, who is now my husband.
I love that.
And yes, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Right before you turned 30.
Yes, we got married when I was 31.
I love it.
But you know what? Yes, because I needed, so before we were able to get together, I had a few more dead ends in dating. And I kind of got to this point where I was like, because up till now, I've been so like, I've got to get married that I think I was trying to not convince these guys to be with me, but I was just like trying to, it's almost like I would change depending who I was with to be who I thought they would stay for, if that makes sense. So it was never really...
I'm in sales. Like that's my job is I have a software company and I lead up the sales team. And I always tell my sales reps, I'm like, look, if you have this deal that's getting ready to sign, if you squeeze it too hard because you want to make them sign, you're going to squeeze it to death and it's going to be gone.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But you're also not being yourself.
Right.
And I was like, I don't think I was. And I just, again, it was that whole worth thing of like, okay, I have to prove to them that I'm worth being with or whatever. And honestly, I didn't date that great of guys, to be honest with you. And I finally got to this point where I was like, you know what? Like, eternity, probably should be picky about that. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
that's a huge thing. And I kind of got to this point, and I'm so grateful for this too. And I think I needed to get to this point where I was like, Heavenly Father, I don't want to be with somebody who I have to convince of my worth.
Right.
And I was kind of like, if you, like, even though when I was younger, this seemed like the most terrible thing in the world to either get married at 30 or never get married. I was like, if that's what I need to do, I'm fine with that. Like, I got to this point where I was finally like, I have worth.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And so I needed to get to that point. And then McKay and I were able to get together. But even if we hadn't met, even if like I hadn't gotten married, that wouldn't have affected my worth. And I do think there are, a lot of girls out there that want to get married and feel like that, like, oh, I'm not worth anything. That is not true. That is not true. And it is, it is hard. We're in a family-centered church, but when things don't go the way you think they should or fit in the box, it is, believe me, it's so easy to feel like, oh, I failed or God doesn't love me or things like that. But that is not true. Your worth does not change depending on what's happening. Like, even anything that happens doesn't change your worth. No matter where you're at, what choices you're making, none of those things change your worth. And if there's anything I could emphasize, that would be that, because I just remember feeling like, oh, God doesn't love me. I'm not worth as much. That is not true. It's not true. But my husband is the best person I know, and I could never have imagined anyone so good for me and so good. Gosh, now I've thanked God so many times for giving me those 3 things that I didn't want. Because I needed those things to draw closer to him and to figure things out and to get to where I am. And I am grateful that I can be married to my husband because he's made me a better person. Like, he's just, like I said, better than I could have ever imagined. And I feel like that's also the whole point, is like, God, if you stay close to him and keep trying, he will give you things that are better than you can imagine. And he'll give you hard things, but they're things you need. Yeah. And, but again, like, you get to this point where you're just like, I never could have thought that could be this good. And that, I feel like that's just the gospel, If you stick close to him, like, things will be better than you could have ever imagined. And it, things aren't perfect, of course, but like, it's just the peace, joy, and all these good things. There's no way I could make it up. It's not a coincidence. It's not, all these things. Like, I believe it's from God. And I think about the church, and I'm just like, there's no way a man with a 4th grade education could make up the Book of Mormon. Like, there's no way. There's no way. And it's just this amazing, just beautiful gift. All of these things are these beautiful gifts from God, and I believe that, and I love it.
I love that so much. Well, Katie, it has been just an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. This has been such a good episode, and I'm so glad we got to have you on. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I appreciate all that you're doing, and I appreciate you having me, and I just, gosh, let's spread the good.
Let's spread the good.
Yes.
Yes. All right, Katie. Well, thank you so much.
Surf Clothing is one of our favorite brands. They have been supporting us since the very beginning. We love them so much. I think one of the things that I like about Surf so much is that my husband is literally obsessed, and I brought him in here to share his experience with Surf Clothing. So Jesse, tell us.
I love Surf Clothing. This is the best shirt that I've ever owned for church and professional purposes. It's got 4-way stretch, which makes it really nice because not all the time I'm at my desk. Oftentimes I'm moving and out and about. So it's really nice to have a flexible shirt that moves with me. I know that it's got a mesh collar that I love. I think the purpose of that is really to prevent stains, but it's also super comfortable. It's way more comfortable around my neck if I'm at church or in business meetings with a tie or whether I don't have a tie, it's really comfortable. It's got arm vents, which I love because I'm kind of a bigger fella. It helps me so that I can be a bit breathable, and I love it.
And also, you can get 15% off a shirt from Serve by using the code COMEBACK.
A lot of people have asked us how they can support the podcast, and we have created a Comeback Podcast merch line on our website, www.comebackpodcast.org. All of the money made from the merch goes right back into the podcast. So if you are interested in supporting the podcast and you want to purchase some merch, we would love it. Check it out. Thank you so much for being a supporter of the Comeback Podcast and listening to our episodes. It would mean so much to us if you would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps other people be able to find us, and we want to share this message to everyone.